desert wind carried more than dust. It carried laughter. "Is that a toy one?" Marine jeered, pointing at the garish orange rifle resting on the bench. Corporal Diaz, young and brash, strutted closer, his tone dripping with contempt. "Sir, you can't be serious. This is a Marine Corps sniper range, not a flea market." Private Monroe leaned in, freckles sharp under the Nevada sun. Maybe he printed it in his garage. "Looks like a water gun to me." Their chuckles echoed, but uneasily, their bravado masking the fact that everyone was staring. Nathan Cole, 78 years old, didn't rise to the bait. He sat steady on his worn stool, eyes fixed downrange where the three 950-meter targets shimmered like a mirage. The TAC 50X in front of him painted a rescue orange. Absurd to their eyes, rested quietly, as if it didn't need defending. That stillness rattled Diaz more than any argument. Marines were used to barked orders, to shouting contests, to proving dominance. But Cole gave him nothing, no reaction, no weakness. The silence pressed harder than words. Dust whipped across the firing line. Conversations died out, and an entire range turned to watch. Diaz's voice cracked louder, trying to claw back control. "Pack it up. Old man, this is a live-fire facility. That rifle is a hazard, and I'm giving you an order." For the first time, Cole moved, not toward the rifle, not to argue. He pulled from his canvas bag a wallet softened by decades of use. Unfolding a laminated card, he held it out with calm precision. Diaz snatched it, flipped it once, then again. The credentials were real. Nathan Cole had clearance. The corporal's authority fractured, frustration flooding in where arrogance had been. Around them, Marines shifted uncomfortably. The laughter was gone. What lingered now was the unsettled weight of something they couldn't yet name. Cole lowered his card without a word. But in that silence, a storm was already building. Soldiers and veterans watching, where are you tuning in from? Drop your city or country in the comments. And if you want more untold military stories like this, hit subscribe now. The desert sun beat down, but a different kind of heat pulsed through the range tension. Diaz's hand tightened on the card he couldn't dispute. His face reddened, not from the sun, but from being exposed. Private Monroe tried to save face with a smirk. He tapped the rifle stock with a careless finger. "Feels like plastic." "Sir, honestly, it looks like something from a toy aisle." Cole's eyes changed. Calm gave way to something flint-hard, a look that came from decades under fire. The shimmering desert around him blurred into memory. Bosnia. Winter of '93, the air thick with diesel and wet soil. Mortar beats walking closer. Beside him, a young radar engineer trembled. His legs splinted. Cole's rifle stood out, painted bright orange not for style, but survival. Amid snow and ruin, it was a beacon for medevac pilots searching through the storm. That color meant extraction or death. It saved both their lives. Years later, that same engineer would pioneer radar systems Marines still relied on. The memories snapped shut, leaving Cole once more in the Nevada sun. He didn't speak, but this time his silence wasn't the point. Instead, his hands drifted to the air, letting a pinch of dust fall. He watched how it curled on the breeze, reading the wind like another man might read a map. From behind the firing tower, Master Sergeant Keene studied the scene. Decades of service had sharpened his instincts, and every signal screamed the same truth: Nathan Cole was no ordinary veteran. His posture, his stillness, the way he treated the rifle, it was the language of mastery. Keene's eyes narrowed on the TAC 50X. It wasn't cobbled junk. It carried the clean geometry of a prototype refined at Ravenwood Ordnance Lab, hand-machined under Cole's own specs. He'd heard whispers of a man like this once, a classified briefing, a legend they called the Phantom of Ironveil, and now the name was staring him in the face. Keen's stomach knotted. These Marines weren't ridiculing a relic, they were needling a ghost, a man whose confirmed long-range shots had once bent doctrine itself. He pulled his phone, walked out of sight, and dialed a number he had no business calling. "Lieutenant," he said, voice low and urgent. "This is Keen at Ironveil Range. Nathan Cole is here with the orange TAC 50X, and your Marines are about to cross a line they don't even understand." On the other end, silence. Then a sharp breath. The gears of the machine were starting to turn. Inside the cold-lit halls of Ravenwood Command Complex, routine hummed through the servers. Lieutenant Harris scrolled through logs, sipping stale coffee, when his secure line buzzed. "This is Keen at Ironveil Range," the voice rasped. "You've got a problem. Nathan Cole is here with the orange TAC 50X, and your Marines are about to push him too far." The name hit Harris like a detonation. His fingers flew across the keyboard. "Cole. Nathan J." The system whirred. Then the screen bled red. "Access restricted. Eyes only. 07 and above." His pulse spiked. 07 clearance generals only. He was a second lieutenant, staring at a name that should have been invisible to him. Every instinct screamed to back out, to close the file, but curiosity burned hotter. He snapped to his feet and strode into Colonel Adler's office. Adler's face was weathered stone until Harris turned the screen. For a moment, nothing. Then Adler's color drained. His hand reached for the secure line. "Get me Major General Rainey," when she answered. Adler's tone had shifted steady, tight, almost reverent. "Ma'am, it's Adler. He's here. Nathan Cole. At Ironveil. With the TAC 50X. A pause. Then Rainey's voice, sharp as a blade. "Scramble the team. Wheels up in 12. On station in 15. Keep him there." Adler slammed the receiver down, eyes blazing. "Harris, call First Recon's commander. Tell him his Marines just put their careers on the line. Back at Ironveil." Corporal Diaz's frustration boiled over. The old man's calm refusal to yield felt like a direct insult. He raised his voice, cracking with anger. "That's it. You're done here. Old man, if you don't clear out, I'll have you detained." He stepped forward, hand reaching for Cole's shoulder. But before contact, the ground began to tremble. A low rumble, building fast. Marines turned toward the horizon as dust plumes spiraled upward. The sound hit next the chop of rotor blades and the roar of engines. A UH-60 Black Hawk swept overhead, shadows slashing across the range, followed by two Humvees kicking up gravel on the access road. Every Marine froze. This wasn't routine transport. This was a scramble, urgent, personal. The convoy didn't brake at the parking area. It drove straight onto the range, skidding to a halt just yards away. Doors slammed open, boots hit dirt. Authority itself had arrived. And then she stepped out, Major General Rainey. Her single star gleamed in the Nevada sun as she cut a direct path toward Nathan Cole. She didn't glance at Diaz, Monroe, or even Adler. Her eyes were locked on the old man with the orange rifle. The air had shifted. Everyone on that line knew it something bigger than rank or training was about to break over them. The range held its breath. Major General Rainey's boots crunched on the gravel, her stride unflinching. Marines who had been smirking minutes earlier now stood frozen, uncertain whether to salute or shrink back. She stopped 3 paces from Nathan Cole, and in a moment that scorched itself into memory, her heels snapped together, her arm rose in the crispest salute Ironveil Range had ever seen. It wasn't regulation formality. It was reverence, a salute that cut sharper than any rifle report. Gasps rippled through the formation. Corporal Diaz's hand, still half raised from where he'd meant to grab Cole, hung stupidly in the air. His confidence collapsed into pale shock. "Mr. Cole." Rainey's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "It is an honor." She held the salute until Cole finally rose from his stool, back straight despite the years. He returned only a nod. Only then did she lower her arm. Her gaze snapped to Diaz, and the warmth vanished. "Corporal," she said, her tone deadly quiet. "Do you have any idea who this man is?" Diaz stammered. "No, ma'am. He's a civilian." Rainey's laugh was short, humorless. "A civilian son. You're standing in the presence of a man who shaped the very doctrine you train under. This is Nathan Cole, the Phantom of Ironveil." The name struck like lightning. Even Keene, who had suspected, stood straighter, reverence replacing certainty. Rainey stepped to the bench, resting a hand near the TAC 50X. "You mocked this as a toy. But this rifle was engineered at Ravenwood Ordnance Lab to Cole's specs glass-bedded, mass-balanced, tuned for impossible shots. And that bright orange, he chose it after Bosnia, when Medivac pilots found him by color alone. That paint saved his life, and the life of a man who went on to design the radar that keeps your fellow Marines alive today." Faces dropped. Private Monroe's smirk dissolved into ash as he stared at his boots. Diaz's throat tightened, shame burning hotter than the desert sun. Rainey's eyes swept the squad. "You saw an old man. You saw a toy. You didn't see courage. You didn't see history standing in front of you. And in doing so, you dishonored yourselves." The silence that followed was suffocating. And then, breaking it, Cole spoke. His voice was steady, quiet, but carried more weight than the general's fury. "They're young. They're proud. That's not weakness. They just need to learn where to point it." Every Marine turned. There was no anger in his eyes, only the kind of weary wisdom that came from carrying too much for too long. The lesson was clear, but the demonstration was still to come. Because Nathan Cole wasn't finished. The sun dipped lower over Ironveil Range, turning the desert into a furnace of gold and shadow. Every Marine stood rigid, their chatter gone, their pride stripped raw. What remained was a quiet reverence as Nathan Cole lowered himself onto the bench and stretched out behind the TAC 50X. The bright orange stock glowed against the sand. Once mocked as ridiculous, now revered as something almost mythic. Cole's hands moved with the economy of a craftsman who had repeated this ritual 1,000 times. No wasted effort, no showmanship, just precision, downrange. The steel target shimmered at 3,950 meters, nearly 4 kilometers, a distance where wind turned savage, where mirage warped sight lines, where even the best ballistic computers hesitated. Diaz had tried and failed that morning. Others hadn't even dared. Cole adjusted the scope, fingers steady, reading the desert the way younger men read instruments. A pinch of grit slipped from his hand, spiraling on the air. He watched it fall, calculating the invisible. His breathing slowed, his body molding into the rifle, man and weapon becoming a single line drawn across the sand. The Marines leaned forward, hearts pounding louder than the cicadas in the brush. Time seemed to stall. Then the crack, a single report, crisp and unadorned. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the monitor beside General Rainey flashed green. Bullseye, dead center, 3,950 meters. The sound that followed wasn't laughter or applause. It was the sharp intake of breath from dozens of Marines who realized they had just witnessed the impossible. Diaz's jaw tightened. He wasn't angry anymore. He was humbled, ashamed. But somewhere inside, a fire lit a desire to be worthy of the uniform he wore. Cole rose slowly, brushing dust from his sleeve. He didn't smile, didn't gloat. Instead, he turned to the Marines, voice low but carrying across the range. "Strength isn't the trigger you pull," he said. "It's the respect you carry for those who came before and those beside you now. Humility will carry you further than any rifle ever will." The words landed harder than the shot. Rainey saluted him again, crisp and unflinching. "Mr. Cole, on behalf of the Corps, thank you." Cole gave a small nod, shouldered the orange rifle, and walked into the fading desert light. No fanfare, no speeches, just a man disappearing into legend. The Marines watched in silence, and in that silence, they finally understood. True strength isn't measured in distance or confirmed kills. It's measured in humility and in honoring the legacy